Now, the government has agreed to issue the necessary licenses and permissions for the resumption of the British Army training unit in Kenya, Batuk, after a week-long diplomatic standoff that saw the United Kingdom announce that it had redeployed its units elsewhere. In welcoming the move, the United Kingdom announced that the scheduled exercise dubbed Haraka Storm will now take place later this year. But even as the two governments resolve the stalemate, the Parliamentary Defence Committee insists that the UK military training programme in Kenya will only resume under full compliance of the revised cooperation agreement that requires foreign nationals who commit crimes in the country while on official duty be prosecuted locally. Seth Alale with the latest update on the Batuk dilemma.
The government has moved to salvage its diplomatic ties with the United Kingdom after a diplomatic fallout over issuance of necessary licenses and permissions for the resumption of the British Army training unit in Kenya, Batuk. In reaffirming its commitment, the Office of Prime Cabinet Secretary, through a statement, stated the government of Kenya welcomes the decision to proceed with the planned military training exercise at the British Army Training Unit, Kenya, and that the Kenya-United Kingdom Defence Partnership continues to advance Kenya's national interests. It strengthens the capabilities of the Kenya Defence Forces, contributes to regional peace and security, supports Kenyan jobs and businesses, and provides significant economic benefits to the communities that host these activities, a position confirmed by the United Kingdom.
And we've had relationships for many years, historical. Where we build capacities, we train together, we help in intelligence information, in technological advancement, and also in building capacities, both human and equipment, within the security framework.
Through a statement, the British High Commission in Kenya states, we can confirm that the Kenyan government has agreed to issue the necessary licenses and permissions for exercise Haraka Storm to take place in Kenya later this year. Additionally, as a result and following detailed work by the Army, we believe that it is possible to deliver the training in Kenya over the same time period as previously planned. Exercise Haraka Storm will now take place later this year. But even as the two governments resolve the stalemate, the Parliamentary Defence Committee insists that the UK military training programme in Kenya will only resume under full compliance of the revised cooperation agreement that requires foreign nationals who commit crimes in the country while on official duty to be prosecuted locally.
Unless the Defence Cooperation Agreement between Kenya and the United Kingdom is signed, there is no way that the British Army can operate in Kenya.
The Defence Parliamentary Watchdog denying claims by DCP party leader Rigathi Gachagua that it attempted to solicit bribe from the UK government to have the Kenya-UK Defence Cooperation Agreement renewed.
I don't think Honorable Gachagua actually was accusing my committee. He is actually he's laying a bait on the British. And I'm told that he has brokers probably who are already looking into the officers from the British Army to find a way of how he can benefit from this situation.
Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
Democracy for the Citizens Party leader Rigathi Gachagua has told off the National Cohesion and Integration Commission over his listing as one of the leaders the commission is investigating over remarks deemed to threaten the nation's peaceful coexistence. Speaking in Buri constituency as he wound up his three-day tour of Meru County, the former deputy president told the NCIC that he was ready to explain his messaging, maintaining he would not backtrack. And as Kamau Mangi reports, Gachagua also waded into allegations that his successor, Kithure Kindiki, was being sidelined in government, claiming he had warned him of what lay ahead.
Minutes after the National Cohesion and Integration Commission revealed that he's one of the people it is investigating over divisive remarks, DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua was issuing a very public response. In Buri constituency, as he wound up his third and final day of his Meru County tour, Gachagua told of the Cohesion Commission, accusing it of failing to comprehend political messaging.
Sisi tunasema kuua nyoka ni kufukuza William Ruto kwa kura. Kuua nyoka pamoja na mayai ni kufukuza wale wote wanatembea na Ruto kupitia kura. Kwa sababu sisi we speak in proverbs, we speak in symbolism and figurative language for effective communication.
Maintaining he would use a language the mountain understands, the former DP expressed readiness to answer questions the commission asked to allay fears that his messaging is a threat to the nation's well-being.
Sisi tuseme hatuna hate speech. Sisi tunatumia figurative language kwa sababu sisi ni wanafunzi wa literature. So NCIC kama mnataka explanation mniandikie barua nitajibu nyinyi.
The DCP leader at the same time pledged to stop at nothing in his quest to have the mountain region united ahead of the general election, rallying the region behind his leadership.
Sitakubali mtu yeyote akosee watu ya Mlima Kenya heshima. Mimi nimejitolea, hata kama ni kukufa, hata kama ni kuangaishwa, hata kama ni kufungwa jela, nitalinda heshima ya wakaaji wa Mlima Kenya na maisha yangu, na sitakubali mtu yeyote aangaishe jamii yetu.
The mountain will not be divided. It will not happen because we know your strategy. Kutugawanya nini kura yetu isiwe na maana. We are clever than that.
Wading into reports in sections of the press that his successor Kithure Kindiki is being sidelined in government, as was his case, Gachagua told Bori residents that he had warned Kindiki against supporting his ouster out of concern that he would be put in the same predicament after taking his place.
I told Professor Kindiki, don't dance on the grave of your brother because siku moja pia utapata shida. Kwa hivyo Kindiki, ile unapata ni ugonjwa wa kujitafutia. Ile unapitia ni mimba ya kujitafutia. Na nilikwambia.
Kama Mwangi, Citizen TV, Mojojone in Meru County.
President William Ruto says changes to the university funding model are well underway to actualize the government's pledge to fully fund all students who qualify for higher education. The president made the pronouncement as students continue to apply for funding for universities, TVETs and colleges using the existing model as the funding agencies wait for Parliament to pass the necessary legislative framework. Brenda Wanga reports.
Days after students were allowed to review their courses through the Kenya Universities and Colleges Central Placement, and some are still unable to effect these changes. Lovian Nyaroba from Kisii is one of those struggling to access the portal.
Mimi tangu nikuja hapa saa 3 mpaka saa. We've been trying to log in, inafika point inakataa. So hata kwa help tunajaribu, sometimes inakataa.
Lovian isn't the only one from this area who is experiencing this downtime. Daniel Momanyi, a cyber cafe operator, says this has been happening with worrying frequency.
Vijaribu ku create account, kutengenezea mwanafunzi account ya help. Inaweza kubali kutengeneza, lakini sasa hiyo activation hiyo yenye inatumwa kwa email inachukua time mingi kukuja.
Despite the challenges, applications for the transfers and the accompanying funding for higher education is ongoing. The students applying for the funding, however, are still using the current system that sees them ask for loans and scholarships. This despite a pledge by President William Ruto of sweeping changes to higher education funding to allow government fully fund students starting with the 2026 cohort. President Ruto says the commitment still stands.
Each and every one of you who qualifies to go to a TVET or a university will pursue the course of your choice without the background of your parents influencing which course you do.
For that to happen, Parliament has to amend the Tertiary Placement and Funding Bill 2026 that will see, amongst other things, a consolidation of the different funding agencies, including HELB and UF, into a single entity, the Tertiary Education Funding Authority, TEFA, that will oversee higher education funding.
It will now make it possible for every student placed in our TVETs and in our universities to get full funding for their courses.
The Higher Education Loans Board CEO says the applications for this year's funding will continue under the current architecture until Parliament passes the legal reforms, which will then be implemented. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
The Controller of Budget has flagged the government's growing reliance on borrowing to finance its budget, warning that while borrowing has helped plug financing gaps, it is reducing the resources available for development. While appearing before the National Assembly's Public Petitions Committee, Nyakango says the public debt has climbed to 12.8 trillion shillings, posing a major risk to budget implementation. Stephen Leto reports.
5 months before she exits the Office of Controller of Budget, Nyakango was in Parliament Tuesday, warning of the country's debt burden. Nyakango told MPs that Kenya's growing debt servicing burden is increasing the country's exposure to exchange rate fluctuations, with the government spending more than 1.35 trillion shillings on debt repayment in the first 9 months of the 2025-2026 financial year. She says the country's debt has hit crisis levels.
We are now, according to our latest report, at 12.82 trillion in total borrowing. Out of that figure, about 60% is domestic and 40% is external.
To manage the rising debt obligations, the government has continued implementing liability management measures, including the repurchase of international bonds aimed at reducing refinancing risks and improving the maturity profile of public debt. But the Controller of Budget says the measures might have come when the country has already been marooned by debts.
The impact is that up to 71% of the revenues that we collect goes to loan repayment. So when that happens, it leaves us with 29% to do the rest of the expenditure that we would like to do.
The Controller of Budget told Parliament of the need to amend the Public Finance Management Act following concerns that counties requisition funds but divert them to other users when they are approved and released.
Now, where they let me down is that after releasing the funds on very stringent grounds, they now go and do different things with the money. Now, of course, I'm helpless when it comes to what they actually do, although we are doing something about it.
Nyakango further noted that the pending bill's menace must be resolved as the country prepares for the next general election. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
Kenya Reinsurance Corporation bosses Dr. Hilary Wachinga, the Group Managing Director, and Ruth Ngugi, the General Manager of Finance and Credit Control, have objected to the claims of intimidation, micromanagement, financial impropriety, and name-dropping, as cited in a petition seeking their ouster from the helm of the state insurer. In court documents in our possession, the two, through their lawyer Peter Wanyama, argue that the petitioner did not exhaust remedies under the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act by lodging a complaint to the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority before filing the instant case in court. Here's Jimmy Mbogo with more.
In a response filed on Monday, the two brushed off allegations raised in the petition filed by Brian Ochieng, which, among other things, sought to find Dr. Hilary Wachinga unfit to hold public office. In his petition, Brian noted that the duo had usurped the powers of the board of the organization and the entire human resource team by unilaterally changing the human resource repository email application from recruitment@kenyare.co.ke to recruitment@kenyare.co.ke, where only the first respondent, Dr. Hilary Wachinga, the group MD, has access. But in his response on the matter and the additional allegation of a 52 million shilling loan, the payment of a training allegedly not authorized, Dr. Wachinga stated that, and I quote, "The State Corporation Advisory Committee is mandated to investigate these matters. Additionally, the petitioner has the option to lodge a complaint with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, which is mandated under the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Act 2011 to investigate the allegation," adding that the doctrine doctrine of exhaustion of remedies requires the petitioner to first exhaust these avenues before filing the instant case in court. Beyond the alleged human resource violation, the CEO had also been cited for procurement irregularities, which in his response he notes, and I quote, "Under the provision of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015, complaints regarding the procurement systems are first addressed by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority." The Kenya Re chiefs argue that the petitioner failed as, and I quote, "the doctrine of exhaustion of remedies requires the petitioner to first exhaust the remedies under the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015 by lodging a complaint with the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority before filing the instant case in court." On allegation by the petitioner that Dr. Washinga had unlawfully reviewed tender duration and contravened tender documents, Washinga specifically addressed a complaint regarding tender number KRC/2023 2127/360 on consultancy services for asset valuation. Washinga says, and I quote, "This tender has been the subject of juridical determination by the High Court in Nairobi, a High Court judicial review, and the judgment was issued on 2nd March 2026. There is no provision in Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act of 2015 or the Constitution of Kenya that allows another judge of the High Court to sit on a review or appeal of this decision." He further adds that, and I quote, "The tender has been the subject of determination by Public Procurement Administrative Review Board in application number 41 of 2026, Ebony Estate Limited versus Kenya Reinsurance Corporation Limited. The board's decision was issued on 2nd April 2026. There is no provision in the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015 or the Constitution of Kenya that allows the High Court to review the decision outside the 14 days window." According to the petition, Dr. Washinga also faced accusation of utilizing the funds of the state corporation to pay personal fine to the sum of 500,000 imposed by the Commission of Administrative Justice. An issue he now says the High Court delivered judgment in the case on 11th May 2026, further noting that the Kenya Reinsurance Corporation Limited has challenged the decision in the Court of Appeal. He contends that, and I quote, "The matter is pending determination by the Court of Appeal. The High Court does not have jurisdiction to review matters pending before the Court of Appeal." In regards to allegation of intimidation, micromanagement, and other workplace issues, he notes in his response that, and I quote, "Under the provision of the Commission on Administrative Justice Act, Chapter 7 of the Laws of Kenya, the petitioner has a right to complain to the Commission on Administrative Justice, which under Section 8 of the Act has powers to investigate any conduct of state affairs, investigate complaints of abuse of power, unfair treatment, manifest injustice, or unlawful, oppressive, unfair, or unresponsive official conduct within the public sector, among other responsibilities." Concluding that therefore the doctrine of exhaustion of remedy requires that the petitioner to first exhaust the remedies under the Commission of Administrative Justice Act, Chapter 7 of the Laws of Kenya, before filing the instant case in court. The matter was set for mention earlier today before Lady Justice Patricia Nyaundi, who directed a temporary injunction to Dr. Hilary Washinga, Ruth Ngugi, and Kenya Re from, and I quote, "interviewing various applicants, processing the application for various positions, and issuing contracts of employment as per the newspaper advertisement dated 4th June 2026, pending hearing and determination of the filed petition." Jamie Mbogo, Citizen TV.
Is he the man of the moment, is the question we're asking tonight. That is Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna, who joins me now from the Linda Mwananchi movement. We'll talk about all of that and much more here on the program tonight. Thank you very much for making the time to be with us.
Asante for having me.
All right.
It's appreciated.
Good. I want us to start with what happened in Western Kenya. You know, a tour of sorts, and we'll talk about that tour and its significance and what it meant. But I want us to listen to this that you said at the tour.
Siitwi SG tena, siku hizi sio naibu wa kiranja, lakini vijana wameniambia leo ninatoka kwa SG ninaenda kwa HE. Unajua HE?
Senator, this is the moment. From SG to HE. Simunajua HE.
Actually, that is not from the tour last.
Yeah, it was from before.
That's from Mwatate in Taita Taveta.
Yeah.
And you know, I was laughing when you started the show because of just how short my introduction has become. Because you know that last time we were here, I was holding other titles and you would have to go through all of them. But we have gotten to this place where the introduction has been significantly shortened. We go into this meeting in Taita Taveta, and these young people, on the back of all this information about everything that has been taken away, they tell me you need not worry. I mean, all these positions, actually, some of them were given to you by Raila, but most of them are given by the public, and we are saying there is something better that we feel that would suit you. And even you, I'm sure it will roll off your tongue if you just say, HE, Simba. So we are progressing well, and I want to thank everybody who has shown up, because everywhere that we've gone, Yvonne, the people have been amazing. I mean, when we spoke last in February, there was a lot of darkness in front. But I can tell you now that I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, because Raila always used to say that in times of difficulty for any political leader, just go back to the people. And if the people keep showing up for you, then you have nothing to worry about.
So what's that light at the end of the tunnel?
I can see that there is possibility of us achieving something great here, because there is a general yearning in the country for things to be done differently. They're telling us they want to see a different country, and they believe that the Linda Mwananchi team can actually deliver that change that they are hoping to see in the country. And for as long as the people are there, I mean, that is all a political leader needs. Because you remember back then there was certain debates that were going on, including in ODM, on where the supporters of ODM were in terms of the support for either the Linda Ground team or the Linda Mwananchi team. I personally believe that by and large that controversy has been settled. We now believe, and I've seen a few polls here and there showing that a vast majority of members of ODM are with us. And it's something that is very comforting, because I have worked for those people, I've worked with those people for years as their SG, and just the fact that they can continue to support us even in our new causes is quite encouraging. So that controversy needed to be settled. We would not be here today, because if you ask many people in Linda Mwananchi how we got ourselves into this conversation where we are now a consequential force in determining the direction the country takes in the next election, we didn't think that we would find ourselves here. And I remember even the last conversations that we had with you, we were not speaking in these terms. By the way, Yvonne, your show causes me a lot of problems. I blame you partly for some of the problems I have. I'm sure even after this, there will be some people who are feeling a certain way. But I will continue to be myself. I will continue to speak truth to power. I will continue to explain myself, because I have a responsibility, both as an elected leader in this country and as a person who's paid by the taxpayer, to explain all our decisions, even to the members of ODM. We have to explain to them every decision that we have taken, every effort that we have made to bring, sense to bear, our successes, our failures in trying to achieve those things, and then to explain to them our next steps, because we have that responsibility to explain to them our next steps.
And we'll talk about the next steps. But first, the tour of Western Kenya. Some have termed it a homecoming of sorts. What would you call it? Why were you in Trans Nzoia and Bungoma counties?
I don't know why people are calling it a homecoming, because
what was it for you?
We have given an undertaking that we have to consult the public widely. We have 47 counties, and we have given an undertaking to reach all these counties, to speak to the people, find out where they stand on the issues and whether they're going to support some of the propositions we're going to put forward. You will remember that this entire tour began in Busia. When I went to Busia, I didn't hear any big deal, although I come from Western Kenya. We have done Kakamega County, we have done Vihiga County. So there were only 2 counties remaining in Western Kenya that we had not touched. And it just happens that I originally come from Bungoma County. So people were trying to give it all sorts of names. And I remember, because there are people who care deeply about my standing in society, and they were calling me, Sifuna, why are you calling it a homecoming? Your home is actually in Kenya. So everywhere I go is actually a homecoming. And we are still arguing with Babu Owino whether the crowds in Bungoma were bigger than Kisumu or whether they were bigger than Kitengela. But I think it was just something that the media tried to brand, because I originally hail from Bungoma. Of course, I'm elected here in Nairobi. And I think a homecoming for me would actually be here in the capital, because this is where I'm elected to serve. So it's one of the 47 counties, and we have to go to all these counties. I think we have done 16 counties now. There's quite a number to go. I think there's 31 left, and we will go to every corner of the country, because that is what is required to be able to ascertain whether we are a movement that is consequential, that we can actually produce viable candidates in 2022 in all the positions that are available for election. So trust that we will go to Turkana, we will go to Wajir, we will go to Mandera, we will go to Marsabit, we will go to Garissa. And because they are calling me Wakenya now, I can assure you that all of us will be homecomings for me as well. Yeah.
So a homecoming for, you say you would consider a homecoming, Nairobi might be a homecoming?
Like that is the center of the country, it's the capital of the country, I'm elected here. I think that would be a homecoming.
Okay.
I suspect so.
Listen, let's cut to the chase here with what happened in Western Kenya, what you said, SG to HE. Edwin Sifuna, are you interested? Are you running? Are you considering running for President of the Republic of Kenya?
I think the straight answer is that as Linda Mwananchi, we are very, very strongly considering the prospect of running a presidential candidate. And that is something that I think is clear. It's coming from the people themselves. They are asking us because there's things that they see that we represent. And we've gotten ourselves here by largely listening to the people. There's a lot of work to be done, Yvonne. I have spoken to you about the tour of the 47 counties. It's not easy to run a presidential campaign. I mean, even just from a constitutional perspective, you need at least 25% in at least half of the counties. We have not even done 20 counties. We are begging and pleading with the public for some level of patience for us to be able to actually ascertain that the support is solid. You have had conversations that this is, somebody compared it to Moto ya Gazeti. We need to know, but you know the beauty is that they started calling it Moto ya Gazeti in February. We are now in August, 6 months for a fire burning. It's not too bad of a fire, and we are hoping to see whether we can take it to all the other places. There's a certain yearning in the country for some level of freshness in the leadership of the country, a radical departure from the policies that we've seen William Ruto putting in place. There's a lot of hue and cry. People are overburdened with taxation, they have no money, there's high unemployment, and they are thinking that maybe we can get a team in place that will turn the course of the country. So all we are asking for is not that we don't hear what the country is saying. We can hear what the country is saying. And I have said in multiple forums that we are not going to ignore the call of the country or the call of a generation. Because at the end of the day, if you are the one who runs around saying Ruto must go, you must be available to go him. If they settle and say, okay, we want Yvonne to be the head of a spear, I mean, you cannot run away from the call of the people. And we are hoping that once we complete the tour of the country and get to as many constituencies as possible, we should be able to give you a straight answer.
Okay. Yeah. You talked about Linda Mwananchi considering.
Absolutely, because...
okay.
Yes.
My question was, Edwin Sifuna, are you interested in running for president of this country?
I have said, because I'm part of the Linda Mwananchi team, the way that decisions are made in Linda Mwananchi are very collegiate. And I wouldn't just be able to do it if I was alone. In fact, Yvonne, I have gotten to this place where we are in this conversation because of all the support that we've gotten from young people, from those online, from the, the bunge la mwananchis all across the places. We have even TikTokers, we have people on social media. They have been pushing this movement. And one of the things that we will not do is to make unilateral decisions. If those people, that's why you see me in every rally, I tell them, you guys are saying we should go and do this. Let that not be a day when I turn back and I don't find you there. So that decision has to be made together with the people so that it is a decision that is owned by everyone and not just Sifuna, you know? And I've tried to plead with people not to make this thing about Sifuna, because at the end of the day, we need to rescue this country. It could be any one of us.
Okay.
You know?
However, at the rallies, it is Mimi ndio Sifuna, Sisi ndio Sifuna.
Yes, absolutely.
So by and large, even when it is a Linda Mwananchi rally, you are seen as the leader of it, the figurehead of it.
I understand that, but I'm saying all those people who are calling themselves Sifunas can be president. There's no bigger Sifuna amongst all the Sifunas in the country.
And if they asked you to run for president?
That's why I'm saying we should make that decision together.
Okay. And if that decision is made,
what I know is,
and they say run for president, is that something you would want? You would do?
I've told them, for as long as I don't turn back and find you guys have disappeared. And that's why you see me asking them, Mbona ni chocha? Diboto ya gazeti. Then they say no. So let's see, because we have a lot of work to do in order to have a viable candidature, in order to have a viable campaign. But I am not one to run away. You know that. You've known me all these years. There's no day a responsibility will be placed to me or a call will be made to me and then I run away. We have to answer the call of the country. We have to answer the call of our generation. And I believe that if the people feel that this is the best way for us to proceed, we will not say no. We will proceed with the people.
So you say Linda Mwananchi is looking at the possibility of putting up candidates?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is that just presidential?
No,
is
no.
Presidential
candidates across the ballot.
Is presidential one of them?
All the positions that are available for election in 2027, you can see us running around. We have a host of candidates, from MCA candidates all the way to governor, members of parliament, members of the Senate, and so on and so forth. So our responsibility actually, and as we transition into August and the election period proper, is to get structures, is to get structured and organized so that everybody can know how to plug in. Because as it is right now, Linda Mwananchi still remains just a movement of the people, and people would want to know the sort of structure that it will take and how they can plug in if they wanted to be volunteers, if they wanted to donate, if they wanted to run, to vie, to be members, and so on and so forth. So I think that is the period that we're getting into, and you will see a lot of movement to other direction in the coming months.
Yes, so I'd like us to talk about that, Linda Mwananchi.
Yeah.
For now, it is a movement?
Yep.
Party?
No, it's a movement. I mean,
is there a future of it being a party? On what platform, for instance?
Yeah, so you have seen that Linda Mwananchi has drawn its membership from across the political divide. Amongst the founder members of Linda Mwananchi are members of the Wiper Party. We have members from other political parties who have said that they identify with the movement. At some point, and we can feel the pressure from the public and from the aspirants as well, and everybody who's invested in Linda Mwananchi, to get organized, because it is clear, they say in Swahili, akufukuzae hakuambii toka. It is clear that those in the leadership of ODM now are done with us. Even as we speak today, I think there's a motion that is going to be brought to the Senate to effect further changes in the Senate to remove Senator Osotsi as the chair of the County Public Investments Committee. They're going to remove me from the County Public Accounts Committee. I've seen they're sending me to the Fisheries Committee, which they think is a punishment, but I actually need to learn about agriculture and fisheries and the blue economy because of the coming assignments. So you can tell that they are basically done with us. I remember.
Are you done with ODM?
No, it's about them. It's them who are kicking us out. I remember on Saturday, when we finished our rally in Kitale, I just saw all of us being removed from the ODM WhatsApp group. It's not me who's leaving. They kicked us out, all of us.
Are you resigned to your fate now?
Removed us.
Because previously here, and in various press statements, you have been adamant that you are the Secretary General of the party. We know the decision the party has made. The last time you were here, you were Secretary General of the party and Minority Whip in the Senate. Now you don't speak so much about still being an ardent member of the party and an official.
It is obvious, and the public will be left to judge that we have tried, those of us who are in ODM who believe that the party should take a different direction. We have tried to fight for the soul of a party. But we're getting dangerously close to the election, and it is clear that our colleagues in the party have no time for us. And therefore, I mean, we have put up a good fight. I personally feel that I have kept my promise to my boss, that I would not be the one to wreck the party, that he has seen that it is them who have come after us. They have stripped us of all the things that he gave us. We have tried to put up a fight, Yvonne. I mean, we have really, really tried. through persuasion and the other things to talk to everyone. And every time you had conversations and you thought that solutions were in the offing, directives would come from other quarters and a totally different direction would be taken. I had one of the leaders saying it is true that decisions of or affecting the party are taken at State House because now the party is part of government. So I think members of ODM will be left to judge on who is right and who's wrong and who has, kept the promise to Mzee and who hasn't. But by and large, if the polls that we're seeing are anything to go by, I believe that members of ODM know what has transpired and the reasons for some of the decisions that we must take now.
So you will not challenge your removal any further?
No, I think we are getting into the election time proper, and the sort of belief, trust and expectation that has been put upon us in Linda Mwananchi does not allow us to keep mourning for too long the things that we've lost. They are saying they will give us these things back. That is where the story of SG to HE came out of. And therefore our responsibility is to get organized so that we don't let all these people down. Really, right now, we have to focus on the future.
And the future of that, I know you say it's a collegiate decision, but even when you take a look at recent opinion polls that have been put up in the country, the question does come up, and those who are surveyed are asked about their preferred presidential candidate. Your name comes up. And your polling and your polling numbers have continued to rise. Yeah. What does that tell you about, based on the surveys, what people want from you?
It says that I need to keep pushing because the highest I've seen, I think, is 15%, which doesn't get anyone elected president. Why don't you allow me to go to and fetch the votes from Wajir and Mandera and Samburu and the other places? And when I see my numbers near 50% plus one, then maybe you can ask me that question. And Yvonne, if I was going to run for president, do you really think I would announce it at night on a show like this? That is something that you do in broad daylight. You know where we come from.
What's wrong with a show like this?
No, there's nothing. It's at night, surely. You call people in broad daylight and you say, now I'm ready. There's something going on in Bungoma right now. Is that circumcision season? You'll never do those things in the dark. You call everyone there and you stand there and the deed is done, So just be patient. I think you understand that we have to gauge the public sentiment even further. We have to put in place certain things. I am very happy, like the sort of support that has come our way. It's just been humbling, Yvonne, Like even when they throw jibes at us and say, oh, you people have no money, you go to a market like Kiminini and there's an old woman there who's giving you an old 50 shilling note. You can tell that 50 shilling note has done the rounds in that market. And especially knowing like the sort of economic situation that people are in, just what it takes to make even a sale at Kiminini market, for somebody to stand up and give you 50 shillings and say, we will finance your campaign, it's been quite amazing. We have seen a lot of support on the pay bill, people just sending us 10 shillings. Do you know how many 10 shillings you need to get 6.5 million shillings in 3 days? It's not a joke. So I want to take this opportunity to just appreciate Kenyans demonstrating that this thing can be done. It doesn't matter what sort of handicap people think that you have. It is possible for a people-driven campaign to actually succeed. And we are hoping that we will not let them down. Okay. And that is why we continue to request that you allow us to do everything that is required to make sure that when we make that pronouncement, it is something that is actually going to hold water. Yeah.
I just want to get your thoughts a little further on this polling, because the latest one from TIFA puts you at 15% popularity for a presidential race, and that's risen from 10%. Yeah. In contrast, persons like Kalonzo Musyoka of Wiper, who have been around a little longer than you have, going down to 13%. I think Matiang'i of Jubilee at about 14%. Others like Rigathi Gachagua at 7%. What are your thoughts about being pitted alongside these persons, including sitting President William Ruto, who's polling at 24%, where support has grown consistently but stagnated based on the TIFA polls.
Yeah.
So you're polling with all of these people, some of whom have expressed interest in the presidency, some of those who are sitting on the seat. Your thoughts around what those numbers tell you?
So maybe three things, and this is why I'm telling you that what people are looking for is not a declaration, because there's multiple people who have declared who are not showing up on those polls. So it tells you that Kenyans are not looking for a declaration. I have tried to explain that the mind is a very powerful, thing, that if people don't see you in an office, it doesn't matter how many times you say you want to be in that office. The mind will just reject the entire notion. So it is not the pronouncement. And people need to see you in that office. And how do they see you in that office? It is, how have we gotten ourselves into this conversation? What have we been doing the past 6 months or so when we were nowhere to showing up in the polls? Secondly, and most importantly, when you have an incumbent who's running below 30% in terms of his approval and the support that he has, it tells you that he's in trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. And if you put together all the support of the opposition, you see that it is possible, if the opposition were to present a united front, to actually have a new government in place in 12 months. So, which is why we in Linda Mwananchi are more focused about those conversations of unity, making sure that we present a formidable candidate against President William Ruto. Those permutations will change from time to time, because they say that an opinion poll is just a barometer of a moment in time. It changes every time. And this is just one pollster. I'm sure that if there was another pollster, the numbers would be different. You'll find different numbers from InfoTrack and the others, and from TIFA and the others. So it is not something to dwell on. What we want is to put in the hard work. Just put in the hard work, reach as many people as possible, try and explain to them this new offering, that things can actually be done differently in our country, and that there are higher aspirations than just some of these things that we hear people talking about, roads and stadiums and so on and so forth. Because when we talk to the people, they are explaining to us that, Sifuna, we want a country that actually lives to the ideals and the values in our constitution. They want a government that is run on values. Any of these governments can do these things that we speak about. But when you increasingly hear and listen to the people in government, their proposition seems to be that for as long as I've built you roads, it doesn't matter how I've treated you. And the people are saying no. The people are saying no, that human rights, democracy, these things are important to them. In fact, they are higher in their pecking order to some of these things that William Ruto likes to front load, like markets and roads. So we have to put in the work. I have said here on this show that nobody thinks, or in Linda Mwananchi, nobody thinks that it's going to be easy. We have to put in the work. We have to persuade people. Tomorrow we have a meeting with a team of our experts who is going to start preparing a platform, because Kenyans are increasingly saying, Sifuna, we all are on the same page that Ruto needs to go, and these are the reasons why we are saying he must go. These are the things he did to get us here. What sort of country do we wake up to after we've kicked him out? Because Yvonne, the sense of unease and impatience that I feel, especially amongst the young people, even if we were to succeed to gain power in this country, we are not going to have the luxury of time. People want to see immediate changes. You've heard the story there of Margaret Nyakango, the control of budget, saying our borrowing is getting out of hand. We're dealing with 13 trillion shillings in debt. And there is no other way. We need to have a team in power that will immediately cut government spending, so that we are able to deal with the question of taxation in the next financial year. So there are serious conversations to be had. I want you people to move away from this fascination of who's going to be number one and who's going to be number two. No. That's not it. We want to be able to tell you that this is the country you will wake up to on the 11th of August in 2027.
So let's talk about that, because there are some who say, the slogan, Ruto must go, yes, which is your slogan. So Ruto must go, then what?
Yes.
What's your plan? First of all, why must he go? in your view.
Correct.
And then what? What is your plan? Because people are saying, okay, a slogan is one thing,
yes,
but what plan do you have for this country?
Yeah, so we have a history as a country, Yvonne, and I've tried to tell this story 100 times. There is a life we used to live. Then we decided that this life has to stop. And I will take you back to 2002, which was the first time that some of us were voting. When we were kicking out Moi, why were we saying Moi must go? Why were we saying the Kanu State has to go? It's not because Moi did not build stadiums. Moi built 2 stadiums. Moi is the one who built Kasarani. Moi is the one who built Nyayo Stadium. And in fact, after that, no other person has ever built. I think this Talanta is going to be the next one. But there is a life we used to live that was unacceptable to us. And especially as measured against the 6 essential values that I keep speaking about that are highlighted in the preamble of the Constitution. Number 1 is human rights, democracy, the rule of law, social justice, equity, equality. All of those things mean something to Kenyans, that our lives have to be lived within a context of democratic ideals. So when you hear people saying, oh, you tell us how many roads you're going to build, it doesn't matter how many people you've killed as a government. Kenyans are increasingly telling us that these values of human rights and the right to life, that is the reason why people are saying we are not going to be attracted by these shiny things. We know that people who believe in democracy can also build stadiums and roads, but we don't want a dictator in power. We don't want to see the things that happen in our neighboring countries happening in Kenya. So William Ruto, by the way, I will accept that in the election of 2022, he rode on a very popular wave. I think he was very popular, especially with the small Mwananchi. Then you have to ask him, how did he lose all of that support? What are the things that he did? First of all, you get in and power gets to your head and you become very obstinate, that you refuse to listen to the people. There is a value under Article 10 which talks about public participation. We are servants of the people, Yvonne. You have to listen to the people. If the people tell you that they don't want something, you don't force it upon them just because you are in power. That is part of the problem. And all these problems began. I remember in 2023, when Raila was still around and we were running around doing our maandamano with the sufurias on the head, we started by having a conversation at Jivanji Gardens, and we told the government that these are the things we feel you need to address. First of all, the cost of living was going way beyond the means of or the capacity of many Kenyans, and you need to listen so that you are able to make interventions to be able to assuage the suffering of the population. What were we met with? Instead of listening to us, we were met with tear gas and bullets in the streets, and we lost a lot of lives back then. Then comes the taxation. I mean, we have been in this space where the few of us who are on pay slips have been taxed to the bone, you know? And you people can tell that even the purchasing power of Kenyans has gone down because of the high taxation. And what are these taxes going to? He'll tell you about the housing levy. And I asked him, honestly, President William Ruto, he claims he's trying to eliminate slums. What slum was he eliminating in Funyula, for instance? If you go to Funyula, that slum, that affordable housing that I was talking about, 12 floors, I was asking myself, what slum was he trying to eliminate in Funyula? The member of parliament for Funyula, Dr. Undo, is a member of Linda Mwananchi, and he confirmed to me there is no slum in Funyula. The priorities of the people in the area mean something, and you have to listen to them. If you spoke to the people of Busia, they would rather that concrete and steel was used in expanding the Busia hospital, doing schools and other things, because that is their priority. They will not live on the 12th floor because there's no Luya who lives where a chicken cannot live. We live with our chicken, we don't rear them. I don't know if you understand the distinction. So when he's elected here in Nairobi, everybody can count the number of slums that we had in 2022. He should be telling us, because of this taxation, I have closed one slum. There used to be a slum in Mathare, I have closed it. Or even in Embakasi South in Mukuru kwa Njenga, there's a big construction there of affordable housing. If William Ruto was standing to tell the country that I closed the slum called Mukuru kwa Njenga, and those people who are living there are now in these high-rise buildings, then we would listen to him. So when he does all these things and you get to a place where the people are telling, especially the elected leaders, that don't vote for this proposal, don't vote for this proposal. But you have the head of state, because he's in a position to influence how parliament behaves. He stands up and says, I'm waiting to see which member of parliament will vote against this thing. Yet the people are the ones who are supposed to be the bosses of the members of parliament. And then 2024 happens, you know. And when it happens, all of those deaths in 2024 were actually avoidable, Yvonne. In my view, they were very, very avoidable. All William Ruto needed to do was to listen to the people. And the most annoying thing is that he waits to waste all these lives in cold blood, then he refuses to assent to the bill. I mean, surely. So he argues with us when we point out that things are not working. You see, even this thing called the university funding model, do you know how long William Ruto has argued with us that that thing is working? Even this share, he will come to accept, and even this housing levy, we are giving him time. When it comes to crunch time, he will accept, just like he has admitted that the university funding model is not working. He will come to admit that share is not working, that this housing thing is not working. You know, today we got a visit from kids from Starehe Boys Center here in Nairobi. And we were discussing with them and just wondering, like, even this university funding model, if William Ruto wanted to have a system that actually accurately identifies the most neediest students and to support them, all he needs to do is to go to Starehe Center. He didn't have to play around with the lives of these kids the way he has done.
Okay.
And finally, on that point, you know, he comes around and says, okay, now we are going to change the funding system. But do you know, there are lives that have already been ruined, Yvonne. In the 3 years that he was experimenting with his funding model, there's people who have actually irredeemably been affected, and they might never recover those years that have been lost.
So you've talked about the issues you have with the current regime. If you say you are offering yourselves as an alternative,
yes,
what is that alternative?
Now, I have said to you here on this show that, in fact, the kind of government that Kenyans wanted is already in our constitution. Because of the history that we have suffered, Kenyans want a very specific government. One that is based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. These are not abstract concepts, Yvonne. You see, I give the example, for instance, if you are a country that is governed by rule of law, there is investor confidence. And I want young people to understand that it is the private sector that invests and then creates jobs for all of us. I have given examples of this institution here, where we are, Royal Media. When SK Macharia was trying to start this media house during Moi's time, you remember all the tribulations that he went through. There was times when his licenses would be suspended. They would come and raid the facility and take away equipment and so on and so forth. If you were to ask Yvonne, how many people work at Royal Media Services, for instance, all your radio stations, all your TV stations, and then how many families, directly or indirectly, are actually involved in this entire operation called Royal Media Services? So the rule of law is such that SK Macharia knows that he can invest his money in this business. He knows that the government is a licensor. If he has a problem with the licensor, for instance, the government cancels the license for Royal Media Services, he can go to a court that will actually give him a fair hearing. And if the court determines against the government, he should know that the government will obey that order. But we are in a situation where William Ruto runs the country by the so-called Mambo ni Matatu rules. So 1,001 cases here. You are told, okay, you have won the case in court, but tutakutana na wewe kwa ground. You have situations where nobody knows what the sanctity of title means anymore. That how, for instance, do you invite an investor to come and buy a piece of land here in Kilimani to put up a plant or whatever business they want to start, and then the next day they wake up, they hear that that piece of land has 3 titles. One of them is held by the Senator of Nairobi, and that even if you take me to court, I'll either speak with the judge behind the tent or send people or goons to occupy the property, and you'll never have your property. So I need to understand that investors look at some of these things, which is why sometimes when you see these investments contracts, when it comes to dispute resolution, they take them to arbitration in London. Why? Because they don't trust your judicial system. They're not going to put money here. Secondly, Yvonne, corruption is such a big problem for job creation that you have these investors complaining that before you even break ground on your project. You have everybody from the area chief to the MCA, to the MP, to the senator, all the way to the president hassling you for either a direct bribe or a piece of the shares of the business, and that you're not going to be able to do business if you don't accede to that request. So if we do away with all these things and we create an even playing field so that nobody feels like they have to give the president a piece of their business for them to invest in Kenya, we will create more jobs for our young people.
So it's easy to say, yeah, we'll do away with corruption and this is what we're going to do. How would you, in a way that you feel is not being done today?
Yeah, so because the vibe that is coming from the top, you know, they say, and I'll take you back to 2002, you know, the person you elect sends a certain signal as to the things we are going to tolerate and the things we are no longer going to tolerate. So when Kibaki gets elected in 2002, he never issued a decree saying that if you see a police officer receiving or asking for a bribe from your matatu driver, you should arrest them. Kenyans were doing it on themselves. And in the converse, if everybody knows that Sifuna as president has a cut in this airport deal himself, what stops me from also asking for my cut, you know? So there is a vibe that comes from the person who's at the top, that certain things are no longer going to be tolerated, and the team that he assembles to be able to deliver that dream, which is simply not the case right now.
And do you have that vibe?
I believe that, you know, people can tell. The people can tell because our histories are there. I saw some people saying that I have a very small house, that I should have a bigger house because I'm the senator of Nairobi. They have called me the poorest senator from Nairobi. If I wanted personal enrichment, I could actually do it. I will tell you the story of how Tom Mboya Social Hall was about to be grabbed one time. And they come and tell you, oh, Sifuna kuna kiwanja, tunataka kupiga hapa. And it is good money. It's not bad money. And I tell them, those things me I'm not doing. And then I take the question of Tom Mboya Social Hall to the Senate, and I call the CS for lands there, Alice Wahome. And to her credit, she comes and cancels that title that was given to the private developer who took over Tom Mboya Social Hall. So it depends on everyone's disposition. You know, we are raised differently. Some of us, where we come from, if you steal someone's chicken, it's a big problem. But then there's people who actually are regarded as heroes if they come and raid your kraal and take all your cows home. So we are socialized differently.
Yeah,
you know?
but socialization is one thing, and I wouldn't want to speculate over how other people are raised or socialized, but it goes beyond that, doesn't it?
It does.
Some type of personal conviction.
It does.
What about you makes you a leader? What is it about your experience?
And that's what I'm saying.
Hang on a second.
Yeah.
You've heard some people say, well, what's your experience?
Yeah.
What is your background?
Yeah.
You know, what have you done?
Yes.
What's your portfolio? So tell us, if you are offering yourself as an alternative,
yes,
what about you that makes you different from not just the incumbent, but everybody else?
But that is for the public to judge, because you see, as an elected official in this country, there's somebody who has been in the public space for all this time. Our lives are out there. Our lives are an open book. And you can always judge. I don't want to be like the person blowing my own trumpet. And you can look at someone's history. I remember in 2000...
No, but beyond blowing your own trumpet.
In 2022, when we were explaining to the country that a leopard does not change its spots, that the history of people determine how they are going to act in the future to a certain degree. If, for instance, your entire public life has been scandal-ridden, you have been found by a competent court of law to have grabbed Muteshi's land, for instance. There is questions about how you acquired your hotel in Langata, that used to be public land. How would people be shocked if you behave differently in office? They shouldn't be shocked. So our entire histories are there. And
what is your history?
You know, I have been a public figure for the past 12, 15 years.
Tell us.
So I can't go through that myself. You are the people to judge and say, has Sifuna used the opportunities that he has been given by the public to enrich himself?
Have you?
Am I fundamentally different in terms of the wealth that I have?
Are you?
I am not. That's the point that I am making.
So are you fundamentally different from everybody else?
Not everybody else. I am saying, let everybody's history be the one informing your choices about how you feel these people are going to behave in future. Look at us, and use a fine-tooth comb to go through all of our opportunities, all of our moments in history, and you'll find out who's the best person. I'm not saying that I am an angel, but
would people want to know about your value system?
Of course.
What you hold dear?
And the value system is not something you sit and explain on TV. It is a lived thing, you know? It is throughout your entire life, how you've behaved in certain areas. And the question about experience, for instance, I went to Mass at a church in Kitale called Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. And the preaching that day was actually that story of how, what's his name, David's son, Solomon, became the king of Israel. And God visited him in a dream and asked him what he would like. And it was a very simple request. He said he would like understanding to be able to govern the people and discernment to know right from wrong. That is all you need in leadership. Because I think if you know right from wrong, you will not do some of the things that we have seen this government doing. And we hope that we will put together a good team that can be able to plug the gaps. Because as leadership, you must accept that you don't know everything. I think the know-it-all attitude of some of these leaders is part of the problem that we have as a country. And you must accept that, for instance, Sifuna is, you know me as a lawyer. I am not an economist or an expert in economy. But I recognize that there's people who actually have spent their entire lives as economists. So give them opportunity to be able to advise you, listen to their advice, and carry out that advice.
Okay, we want to take a break. When we come back, we will talk a lot more about that, including the money question, how you are making or crowdsourcing funding, how much you have, and also that question about apparently your house back in the village. That's the subject of national conversation at this time. We're here with Senator for Nairobi, Edwin Sifuna, also from Linda Mwananchi. Yeah, and like you said, your CV has become, your title has become a lot shorter. We'll be right back with Edwin Sifuna here on The Explainer. All right, and we're back with Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna talking about a raft of issues. We're also getting to your questions in a moment. But first, I'd like us to listen to a clip from one of the leaders in ODM, that's Junet Mohamed.
Na unajua waziri, wakati tulikuwa tunafukuza Gachagua kazi, kuna kitu ilitembea hapo, huko bunge. Wacha niseme ukweli. Kuna kitu ilitembea nini? Na accounting officer alikuwa mtu naitwa Aaron Cherioti, ndio alikuwa accounting officer. Wengine nimeona wanarukaruka hapa, walikamata hizo vitu na hawakujenga boma. Tafadhali, kila saa impeachment haikuji. Kama umepata kitu kwa impeachment ya Gachagua, tafadhali jenga boma mzuri. Ile boma nimeona na pesa ya Gachagua haitoshani. Kuna hisabu imepotea. Mambo ya kuharibu pesa yako na watu yellow huko Nairobi. Unapeana pesa kwa wa yellow huko Nairobi. Leta pesa hapa chini bwana. Tumeelewana? Wale wanajua ile kitu vinaongea wanajua. Sijaona marupurupu na malipo ya hiyo impeachment, sijaona kama imefika Bungoma. Ile nyumba nimeona juzi hapa, hiyo ni nyumba, hiyo mabati haifai kwa mabati kama hiyo. Haifai mabati kama hiyo.
All right, so before we talk about the other politics, he makes a very serious allegation there of, people being bribed in the Senate during the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua as deputy president at the time.
Yes.
You were a Senate minority whip at the time.
Absolutely.
Do you know anything about this? Money being paid to senators to vote a particular way?
You know, this thing is always said. I have heard it a million times, and every time they're invited to demonstrate who was giving the money and for what reason. They have never demonstrated that. So it's something that I actually personally don't pay too much attention to. I think you should be able to speak to that accounting officer that he has named there. Let him account. Tell us, I got money from this guy and gave this guy. That's all we need, because there's a lot of talk in politics and people just trying to besmirch and smear people's names.
But did you hear of any of these allegations?
I have heard these things, I think, from the time that Rigathi was impeached. These stories have been there. This is not the first time that you're hearing that story. And all we need now, Kenyans, is for them to level with Kenyans. Tell us the money was picked from Yvonne and given to Sifuna. That's all we need.
Have you did you receive any money during the impeachment?
No, they should come and tell us who gave us money.
So you didn't receive any payment?
You see, like right now,
to induce you to vote during the impeachment?
I didn't need any inducement when it came to Rigathi's impeachment, because publicly I had taken positions against some of his conduct and his pronouncements. And I'd even at some point, there is one of the grounds of impeachment there was his interference in the running and management of Nairobi City County. I don't know if you remember that. And I had actually put out a public statement saying that he's going too far in his interference with devolution, because that's what I was elected to do. There's a letter that I did, and I wish you had informed me that you'd be discussing this, because I would bring you a copy of this letter. So I actually believed at that particular moment in time, I don't need any inducement to do that, you know. So all of these allegations, they're just wild allegations, because they're always looking for a way to besmirch people's reputations. I remember similar allegations were made by the Council of Governors, you remember. The Senate invited them to present that evidence that some senators were extorting them money. Up to today, Yvonne, you know, it's one thing to make an allegation, and legally, he who alleges must prove. So, for me, these stories are going to continue. And until the day that somebody comes and shows you that this money came from Yvonne and it was given to someone, then these other things are just attempts to muddy the waters.
Because that's the same question Frederick Okango is asking on X. We will get to it in a moment, but let me just read it out. He says there were allegations that you have alluded to in February of this year. COG formally naming you amongst 4 senators of extortion, intimidation, harassment. Is he clean, he asks.
So how do you know how that story ended, Yvonne? How did that story end for the COG? The COG made accusations in public, but when they made an apology, they made it in private. They came to the Senate and apologized to the Senate, because they, what is it called? The head of the institution there, called the Speaker, Kingi, he actually told them, you come and tell us what accusations you have against, or the proof that you have against these senators, and there was nothing. They actually came and apologized. There was another case in the National Assembly which was very curious regarding one of my allies, the Honorable Jack Wamboka. And I happened to represent him. You know him, it went all the way to hearing, which is something that we didn't see in the Senate. We had a sitting of the Powers and Privileges Committee in the National Assembly. And I was very embarrassed, because the person who was making that accusation was actually Reverend Kobia, somebody who has a very high reputation and somebody who I have a lot of respect for. So when we were cross-examining him during those hearings, we asked him, even the people, you know, he said he had heard from somebody else that the Honorable Wamboka was seeking or soliciting funds from him. And the people who he said he heard from had written letters to the National Assembly saying that is not a correct position, you know. So it is one thing to allege things, but when we come to the crux of a matter and tell you, okay, show us this evidence that you have against so-and-so, they always scramble and cross-exam. The biggest complaint from Reverend Kobia was that Jack Wamboka, in his handling of a committee meetings, is very rough. You know, the way he talks. And in fact, he compared Mheshimiwa Wamboka to the other chair of cohesion in the Senate. I think it's Senator Chute. So I asked him, do you really expect all of us to be the same in the way that we talk or the words that we choose and how we behave? No, the biggest problem is that he felt that he was being handled roughly. It's the same thing with the members of the Council of Governors and the experiences in the Senate Public Accounts Committee. But I've argued, Yvonne, that there is no senator who can be nice in the face of some of the things that we have seen being brought out of the County Public Accounts Committee. And one of the things that people forget is that those responses come from the governors themselves. So, for instance, my friend in Embu, She came to the Senate and she told us she took 10 million shillings from the KIPES project, which is a county aggregation and industrial parks project, to throw a bash for the border. My brother from Vihiga did the same. They took 5 million shillings and threw a housewarming for the completion of the Speaker's house. You have our brother from Taraka, for instance. He comes and the responses are so bad when you tell him, just read for me what you have written here. He says, Sifuna, I can't read, I forgot my glasses at home. So then they say we are harassing them. They're saying we are using the committee for, political, to settle political scores and so on and so forth. But you should press them, because when they call those press conferences, Yvonne, your media houses are there. You people never press these governors and say, why don't you tender that evidence against Sifuna? Which is this governor who says I extorted them? What is the evidence against them? So, wamejaribu kuharibu jina na imekataa, you see? So, they will throw around all these sorts of things, but for me, our job is to remain focused. Some of these people who are throwing around mud here, if their files are opened, the Kenyans will be shocked.
I want us to talk about, Linda Mwananchi and the movement.
You want me to tell you about my house first? Because it was in the same clip, but you've only focused on one piece.
Tell us
first
about
of all,
your
Kenyans
house,
must know that I am very proud of that house. I built that house in 2015. And on average, I spent a maximum 2 weeks out of a year in that house when I take my daughter home for Christmas. Those people who are saying, oh, sijui what, it's okay. Some of us are built different, Yvonne. We are not attracted to flashy things and grandiosity. You know, I see some people saying, oh, because you are so-and-so, you should have this and this. It is possible to be modest. I remember you were with us. I think you came to Raila's home in Opoda. Is it a grand structure? It's just a house. It's just a house in the village. Even his house here in Karen, it's a very modest house by the current standards. I've seen people building monstrosities there, wall to wall. So it just depends on who you are and what things you fancy. Some of us are okay for as long as you're comfortable with some of these things, and we're not attracted to this grandiosity. So that one is neither here nor there. And the fact that it is that house that people are discussing, it means wabetafuta story imewashinda. And our focus, our challenge is to remain focused on making sure that we succeed in the next election. Yeah.
Well, to do that, perhaps coalition building might be one of those. That's the nature of our politics in this country. People build coalitions. What principles would guide any coalition you build or any coalition that you're part of?
I think that's what I started with by saying we have a team of people who we believe can help us develop a platform. We're not even calling it a manifesto because the word manifesto has a lot of negative connotations. Kenyans are used to all these lofty promises. You have a document that is 100 pages and then none of those things is fulfilled. And which is why I was dissuading you, Yvonne, from discussing these positions of, which seat are you going for, who's going to be the deputy, who's going to be number one. Those are secondary conversations. We want to start these conversations with our partners by trying to understand. First, we have a policy proposal, a platform proposal that is going to revert the country back to its democratic ideals. The 6 values that I've talked about in our constitution, because that's the government that Kenyans said they wanted when they passed this constitution. What is your understanding of rule of law? What is your understanding of freedom? What is your understanding of democracy? How have we gotten ourselves here? And what is your understanding of the sort of country that people want immediately we are able to take power? Those conversations to us, as Linda Mwananchi, are more important than these other things where people are saying, oh, who do you go into coalition with, who do you go into coalition, or who you don't go into coalition with. So that is where we are. I think we should be able to have those conversations with our friends. You saw us having a meeting with the Honorable Matiang'i, and we are open about even the issues we have with them. And we say it publicly there. When I met Matiang'i at a funeral in Kisii, I reminded him of the experience we had with him in Bonchari and the experience I had with Rigathi Gachagua during the times of when he was deputy president. So we are not going to shy away from difficult conversations about some of these people's, public record and conduct in public office. We have to have those difficult conversations and say, if we agree that this is the country that we want to see, then who's the best person to be able to deliver that new country that Kenyans seem to be telling us they want?
Would you be looking for people with similar values, similar principles to those
no, people who agree with
that
us,
you hold, or what would be the basis of that?
The people who agree that the sort of government we want to form is not just your regular government. We want to revert the country back to the essential values, like those, the rail of values, these ones here. There are only 6. Yeah. So in that framework, if you agree with us that this is what you believe Kenyans want, then we will be able to say this is the best person to deliver that dream.
With their past record?
Of course, I have said it here. I have said it here. I have told them.
Yeah.
Hey, I've told them that we don't want candidates who will have problems if you put them in a debate with William Ruto. If I say we are kicking you out because of ordering police to shoot young people in the foot, would he be able to say, even you, Sifuna, you did the same? That's the problem we have to confront.
Are there any candidates you think that would not be suitable?
First, let's first agree, because we have to talk to each of these people. And by the way, it is not going to be an easy conversation, you know. If you look at the math there, the math is telling you that for as long as the opposition presents a united front, we would win. There's a reason why those people have support, even though some of them have what you might describe as weaknesses. So first we need to persuade them, and we as Linda Mwananchi are hoping to persuade people that these ideals and values are higher than any other conversation to have. And if we are able to persuade them, because politics is persuasion, you're not going to force people to see your point of view. You have to persuade them. And if we're able to persuade them, then we should be able to work together.
Yeah. And their past would not sort of inform whether you would be able to persuade them, or whether they would be able to keep their end of the bargain.
We will
based
confront
on
that past, each one of our
individual
pasts. But one of the most interesting thing, Yvonne, is that you know the story of Saul and Paul? It's the same person, basically. That Saul used to be the greatest persecutor of Christians, and he turned out to be the biggest spreader of the gospel. There's people that have in the past had all these issues. Now they're the ones preaching the gospel of these values. And then there's people who I used to believe, actually believed in these things. These days, they are the ones asking for dictatorship to be tuned up a notch. And we used to sit with them in the same party. We used to be the ones advancing these things and saying, we need a democratic government. And then they're the ones standing and saying, by the way, this democracy is becoming too much. We need to turn up the dictatorship a notch. So on both sides, there's people who have flipped. Yeah. So if you ask me, would I rather the people who are persecutors of Christians, who have met their Damascus moment and become preachers of the gospel, would I rather have conversations with those people, or the people who are true believers who are now dancing to Satan's tune? Who do you go with into the election? That's the question that I'm asking.
So someone like Governor Irungu Kang'ata, who has joined some of your rallies, is part of the movement?
Yeah, he said that he's part of the movement, and we were very, very honored that he joined us. He's my classmate. He's somebody who I have known for a long time, and he has to make tough decisions about his politics at home, because, you know, at another level there is a lot of balancing to be done in these regions. So you will agree with me that, for instance, in certain areas of the country, there's people who have very strong political persuasion, and they might determine the down ballot candidates. So people will make those decisions, but at the end of the day, at least we agree that we have a responsibility to remove the current president, because he's the one who's an existential threat. He called us as members of the opposition an existential threat, but he's the one who's an existential threat to our democracy, and he needs to go.
And you talk about local politics. Well, the governor, Irungu Kang'ata, has recently thrown his hat in with Rigathi Gachagua, the leader of the DCP party. What do you work with Rigathi Gachagua? We
will work with everyone who believes in these things. We will work with everyone who believes that William Ruto does not deserve an extra day in office. And for as long as that is our cause, we will work together. There is no problem.
So is it about political numbers, or is it about a value-based system? Because a short while ago, you just said you needed no inducement to impeach Rigathi Gachagua as deputy president. Now you say you could possibly work with him. What has changed?
Nothing has changed. Because you see, first of all, as a lawyer, I will tell you there is a rule against double jeopardy. So he paid for his mistakes. He was impeached. What else do you want me to do? Beat him? He already was impeached. I already voted to impeach him. And it was for specific crimes, which we have discussed here, you and me. But I'm telling you, he's the one now who's saying William Ruto is actually an existential threat to the country, and whatever it takes that he can do to help remove him. And by the way, there's a curious thing that he says, that he feels largely responsible for William Ruto becoming president, and that therefore he has a greater responsibility in removing him than anyone else. And that is something that I agree with, because at the end of the day, we have to kick out William Ruto, you know? So if he's going to, and I've given this analogy, that if he's going to hold the leg of the animal that we are hunting, and somebody else holds another leg, and another one distracts him, and then we are able to put down this animal, it is okay for the future of the country. A lesson needs to be taught in 2027, Yvonne, that if you come to office through democratic means and then you refuse to listen to the people, or you abandon the cause of the people, and you do the things that William Ruto has done, and we have gone through how we have gotten to this particular point in time, that you have to be removed. And I think it will help our democracy, so that even the next person who succeeds William Ruto in office in 2027 will know that for as long as you depart from what you promised Kenyans and you start doing your own things because you think now you are a big man, you'll also be kicked out.
So this is all about political expediency. This is about both. One man for you.
It is both, absolutely, because I have said he is worse than even that Rigathi that you're talking about. He is.
Let's talk about funding for a moment. We're seeing you receiving money from members of the public at the rallies, and you've got a pay bill number. How much have you raised so far?
I think as of today we had, I think, 6.5 million shillings on that pay bill number. And I continue to be eternally grateful, because Kenyans are changing the conversation. Even in mature democracies, actually it is the public that finances leaders to be able to run for office. And it all started with this notion that somehow we in Linda Mwananchi do not have money to be able to run a campaign. And I tell young people that there is something that the political class has done or succeeded in doing, making it seem like you need billions and billions of shillings to be able to run for office. It is part of a self-preservation strategy by the political class, because it scares away, especially young people. When you hear the figures that are being thrown around, you're like, where am I going to get 4 billion shillings to run for office? But I am saying you don't need 4 billion shillings, you know? So the people here that, these guys are saying that Linda Mwananchi cannot run for office because they don't have money. Well, how about we finance this thing ourselves? Number two, there was one of the prominent persons in the country who said, forget these 10 shillings, you can just call me and I'll give you 1 billion shillings and you'll be able to be on your way. And the public are saying this is part of a problem, because if you have a few wealthy donors who then give you all the money that you need, you will owe those people going into your administration. And maybe if the interest of those few people clashes with the public interest, you are more likely to listen to those who gave you the money to campaign than the public. So if you want to insulate your leaders, from the corrupting influence of money, you should be able to be the ones to say, we own this candidate. And it has worked in many, many democracies. I remember when Bernie Sanders, the senator in the US, was running for office, and even Barack Obama himself, he received one of the highest small donor contributions for his campaign. So it is an awakening. And I'm telling you, when I went to Western Kenya, and I go to Kiminini market, and these mamas in the market are bringing you 50 bob, 10 shilling coins. It was a very emotional moment for me, because first of all, I appreciate that they are going through a very difficult time, and for them to say, we are going to spare whatever it is little we have for you to be able to, for us to be able to support your campaign, it is something that is a very powerful moment for me, and I will never forget. I want to assure the people in all those places, in Kiminini, in Kamukuywa, in Chwele, who contributed to us those small amounts, that we will put that money to good use.
What are you using the money for?
So essentially, Yvonne, on average, Linda Mwananchi spends maybe 2.5 million shillings per meeting that we run. And the expenses are very straightforward. Basically, it's the stage, it's the sound, it's paying the DJs, it's paying security personnel because we need them, and so on and so forth. So that is what essentially campaigning is about.
Are you going to account for these monies? Because
absolutely.
The pay bill you have is very public. How are you going to do that?
Absolutely. The good thing with a pay bill is that you can obtain a statement. You know, you can obtain a statement showing money in and money out.
Yeah,
you know?
But then where the money goes to, I'm saying, is that something, because the pay bill is owned by you, to be fair.
Yeah, and if the
so
people
what is
sending
your
us money,
accounting
if
mechanism?
the people sending us money, I don't know if you have sent money.
No, I have not.
Yeah, so it is their money. It is their money, and they are choosing voluntarily to send that 10 shillings to me. If
Understood.
that mama in Kamukuywa asks me, Sifuna, where did my 10 bob go, I will explain to them where that 10 bob went.
My question is this. No, my question is this, because you have a public paper.
Yes.
You know, you put it up on social media.
Yes.
What is the method of accountability on that same platform with the same prominence? Do you have a plan that says 6.5 million shillings is here?
Yes.
How do you plan to do this accounting? Do you want to hang on a second?
You can actually show a spreadsheet of your expenditure.
Are you going to do a spreadsheet?
If the people who have given us
money ask the question?
Yes.
Thank you.
And I would wish you speak about your money, Yvonne. Don't speak about other people's money.
No. We're here. We hold this job in public trust. And the questions we're asking are questions by the people.
These are not taxes.
They may not be taxes, but they are money that is owed to people. And if you were looking at this as a position of leadership, and to act as an example that you say would be different from others who are in office or others who desire the same position, my question to you is, what is your form of accountability? Is it going to be after every county trip? Is it going to be every 6 months? Is it going to be every year? Where does this public, accountability happen?
I don't know what the people who have contributed to the pay bill, what format they want. If they wanted daily accountability, it's possible to do it. If they wanted monthly contributions or monthly accountability, it's possible to do it. So what we've been doing...
But what is your method of accountability? Aside from what the people want, do you not feel you have a responsibility from the 10 shillings and the 50 that you're getting? So what is your promise of accountability to them, rather than putting the responsibility on them for asking?
At the end of this campaign, at the end of this campaign, we will account for every coin that we have received. We will tell you, on this day, X amount of money was withdrawn. This is what it went to. You know, because we are not looking for personal enrichment from that pay bill, Yvonne. And we have a responsibility, I agree with you, to the people who are contributing that money, to be able to explain to them that they are able to see this is the work that has been done in terms of... But they understand that they are facilitating this movement to be able to reach as many people as possible. So when you see 2 back-to-back rallies succeed, if, for instance, they look at the sort of... set up in Bungoma and they're saying, no, Sifuna, that cannot be 2 million, it would be a problem. But you can see, by and large, they know. They can see what sort of setup there is.
But knowing
so at the end of the campaign,
seeing and understanding are two different things.
I agree. So at the end of that campaign, when we close that pay bill, we will account for every shilling that was put there. So,
should there be any limits to how much campaigns should receive?
I don't know. I think there is a law capping how much a campaign can spend, but I don't think that there is any law limiting how much money a campaign can receive.
There are operational guidelines that have now gone before the National Assembly. I believe they are with the Committee on Delegated Legislation. They've already received memoranda. There's public participation ongoing on the same. Should those guidelines be passed and applicable in the next election? There is enough time now as compared to last year.
Yeah, personally, I've always supported the capping on campaign financing because, as I told you, one of the biggest hurdles to participation, especially of young people and people generally in politics, is the restrictive resources that are required. And you can see that it offers an advantage. Because then you are able to be in more places than your opponent, to be able to do some of those things. If you saw, for instance, the campaigns in Malava and campaigns in Olkalau, it's ridiculous the sort of money that is being spent just on a campaign for one seat. And the question then becomes, what is the plan for the return on investment that is put there? And it can only be one answer, Yvonne. So if those regulations come, of course, I am one of the biggest supporters for capping how much money a candidate can spend. My self-interest, of course, dictates that I support it, because I actually don't have that kind of money that I see people spending around in campaigns. So let the regulations come. If a capping is put, we in Linda Mwananchi have always believed in and preached rule of law. We will comply with those regulations.
So you say you're funded by the people. Is there
Yes.
any organization, person you would not receive funds from, that you would reject if they offered?
Yeah. I think there's characters whose reputation is known. I don't think that we would accept donations from some of those people. Because we would doubt their motivation, you know? What is your motivation? I said I would rather be indebted to 10 million Kenyans who send me 10 bob each than 2 people sitting and saying we have 5 million shillings each, you know? Because there's always a motivation behind it. And we are hoping for a clean break, and that is why we are saying the public needs to insulate some of these movements from that corrupting influence of money.
So you would also tell the public you received 10
I have
shillings
publicly
from...
refused to take money from someone, Yvonne.
Okay.
I said it. So why are you asking me a question that you know? I have said publicly, there's someone who offered me 1 billion shillings and I told him to keep it.
Is former President Uhuru Kenyatta funding your campaign?
No, he's not.
Have you spoken to him?
I speak to him because he's the party leader of Azimio. I do speak to Uhuru. Yeah, and he's a friend to, was a friend to the late Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. So when you run into him, you talk to him. Ama, you will avoid him.
So he's not funded?
No, he's not.
Does he make any other contribution of any kind?
No, maybe just encouraging us. When he speaks, and he does it in public, he says young people need to be encouraged to take leadership. You've heard him saying it.
And that young person is you?
Young people. This thing is not about Sifuna.
Yeah, I'm asking a question. I'm sitting down now with Sifuna, so the questions will be directed to you.
He has publicly encouraged young people.
Yeah.
I am 44 years, by the way. I doubt that he's even talking about people like me. He's talking about the young people aged below the age of 35. He wants them to participate in these things. And I'm happy that many of them are answering the call. You can see many of them are offered themselves to be MCAs, MPs, senators, even governors. There's very young governor aspirants that I've seen in Linda Mwananchi rallies. And that is what he's been encouraging them to do.
Has he encouraged you in the Linda Mwananchi movement?
I'm already in leadership.
Yeah, but...
I am already a senator.
So you don't need any more encouragement?
No, we don't need more encouragement. We want these people who don't participate in politics to participate, who view this thing as something in the abstract or something that is beyond them, to realize that there is need for them to involve themselves in politics. And I think that's what he's been saying.
Does he provide you with any strategy?
No.
None at all?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So any conversations you have are about... Would you care to share?
Those are my private conversations with Uhuru. Unless you want to join the next meeting, Yvonne, you can come and sit in and listen.
Let's take questions now from members of the public regarding this one. And this is about your plan going forward.
Yes.
Let's take a look at it now. It's a bit of a long one, but bear with us. It came via SMS. Debt to GDP ratio is 67%, and that's excluding pending bills and the effects of PPPs, which are both disguised as debt. The real ratio is over 70%. It is not enough to say, vote for us because the other guys are bad. But do they have an economic blueprint for the country, or have they at least started thinking about it?
Yeah. So I think this viewer, I didn't see the name there. They might have joined the conversation late. I told you that tomorrow morning we are having a meeting with a team of experts in different things because we have narrowed down some of the main concerns that Kenyans have to fixing healthcare, the education system, to be able to give an environment or provide an environment where there can be investment and therefore creation of jobs across multiple sectors, and also how we are able to manage debt and government expenditure going forward. So we will have a blueprint, which we are calling a platform, that we will offer to Kenyans, and it is going to be a product of proper thinking. It's not just something you wake up and do. Secondly, I think he missed a bit where we said we acknowledge that there could be knowledge gaps, because as you know, I am a lawyer, yes, and I am more, adept at discussing these conversations that we had in the beginning. But I recognize that Kenya has talent. I mean, there's people in this country, if given opportunity, they can actually offer us a way out of our debt situation. If you speak to many people in public service, Yvonne, because we have completely subdued meritocracy, you find people working or reporting to people who are essentially non-starters in their specific areas. Like you have somebody who's a proper economist reporting to some guy because that guy is from the president's tribe, and they are unable to work in the ministries, So we believe that if we inject this oxygen of meritocracy back into public service, we will get ideas, because people have dealt with these issues in other spaces,
but you've
in other places.
So I want to know if you have sort of a general thought around the country's economy and where it goes. You sit in the Senate Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
You're taking a look at funding, how governors are using the funds that are allocated to them. You're also taking a look at the division of allocation, the division of revenue and the allocation of revenue as well between both levels of government. So what are your thoughts about where our debt is now, even listening to what the Controller of Budget had to say earlier? Our debt, it looks like we're in a tight position. And these are some of the economic realities that you would face if you are successful in your bid. So what are your general thoughts around the economy?
I think we first of all need to deal with the question of debt by managing our public expenditure. There's acknowledgement that there's a lot of wastage in public offices, and also a lot of corruption. A lot of money is wasted. Sometimes you look at how these people in government behave. I had one of the members of parliament who's supporting the government. At one of these empowerment events, she was answering critics who were saying, where do you people get all this money? And she actually said, we are a government. The government has money. Somehow when it comes to those empowerment things and giving cash to Kenyans, there is money. But when it comes to funding basic things like healthcare and education and the others, suddenly there's no money. So we believe that there's, in the initial days, part of the conversation that is happening within Linda Mwananchi is we must agree that we are not going there to party. Some of these things.
So where are some of the areas you think in terms of expenditure?
We will be able to give you a proper blueprint. But Yvonne, for instance, if you just look at the ballooning budget for State House, where is that money going to? Where is all that money going to? If you have renovations at State House, changing the roof of State House every 3 weeks, why is that expenditure necessary? We have a fight in Meru now because the president is insisting on building a state lodge there in Meru, which he will spend maybe one night in the 5 years that he will be president there. So some of these things, it's for us to be able to sit down with people who know how government is run, and to be able to tell us, Sifuna, here we are going to have to cut this and this and this and that. Number two, as a Senate, essentially we have a big problem with the question of debt, because the county governments are never involved when we take debt, and we are never told which projects that debt is applied to. You remember the famous case of Eurobond, where our own Auditor General was telling us that they don't even know where that money went. We have to have an audit of that debt. It was one of the conversations that we had during NADCO when Mzee was still around. That audit has never happened, because we need to know as Kenyans, and there have been claims by some of my friends like Okio Mtata, that some of that debt actually is what he calls or refers to as odious debt that we shouldn't pay. But the national government is the only one that with the mandate to take this debt, they spend it the way they want, but we all have to pay for it. So I am convinced, and we in Linda Mwananchi are of the proposition that it is possible for us to find out some of this wastage in government. I was told there was an audit that was done. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it here, of the public service. We have people in government, Yvonne, whose maids are being paid by the taxpayer.
Okay.
Are you aware?
You know, we can talk about what's happening at State House, but in terms of a larger sort of economic, broader thinking, which segments or which sectors of the economy do you think there is waste.
Yeah, now you need to...
And where the areas do you think that you can perhaps move money from one vote or to another?
You need to allow us, because you're talking to a lawyer, you're not talking to an economist. You need to allow us to engage with our resource persons, with people who are well-versed in these issues, and then we will give you a platform, we'll give you a blueprint. But Yvonne, these are quick examples. I've given you the example of State House, I've given you the example of the public service. And it's not little money, Yvonne. If one person, for instance, one private person, has over 400 people that we pay for in our taxpayers, and they're just working in his farms as farmers.
You do understand.
That is a lot of money.
You do understand that for many who are watching and perhaps starting to think of you as a viable alternative, like you were saying, you called yourself a consequential force at the start of this, that they would want to see if there is some thinking. By the way, some of these questions are coming from people who cannot be named and who are senior executives in private sector and CEOs of big corporations. And these are some of the questions that they're asking, and they want to know if you are, thinking deeply. Have a broad idea of some of these areas that you want to fix beyond a slogan that says Ruto must go. Because one of the things they say is the current lot, whether you might agree with them or not, have a blueprint of sorts. They have a clear approach, and that can be debated, whether you think this approach works, this model works, or the other does not. But it's wanting to see whether there is a proper thinking about what happens if you are able.
And that is understandable. And that is understandable.
To beat the incumbent.
One of the things that we started, when we started this conversation, I told you that we want a leadership that can agree that there are areas where they might be blindsided, because I've told you I'm not an economic expert. What we want, there are ideas out here. For instance, when Baba was in government, during the Grand Coalition government, he used to have a round table with these business people that you're talking about here, because you need everyone to be on the table for you to have solutions to some of these problems. We are not looking for a president who knows everything or who knows it all. We are looking for someone who can accept that, yes, there are people who know more than I do, and we are willing to sit down with them to be able to proffer solutions to this country. You are saying that they prefer this other lot because this other lot has a blueprint.
No, not that they prefer them. They say they are the incumbent and they have one. I didn't talk about preferring.
You have asked your question. These business people themselves are the ones telling us that the economic policies, for instance, the taxation regime that has been imposed on them by the Ruto administration, is running them out of business. They are the ones who are telling us those things. Because the cost of doing business has gone up, they are not able to employ more people. They are not able to survive. I have met some of them. I'm surprised now they are writing you messages. And there's nothing like anonymous people, Yvonne. People should be able to come out for conversations around their country. So I have seen, if you look at the numbers, for instance, of the businesses that have exited Kenya alone, because of the cost of production, because of all this taxation that has been imposed, we have lost a lot of businesses. We have to look at our cost of production. When I was a member of the Senate Energy Committee, I was thrown out. We had an inquiry into why electricity is expensive in this country. So, for instance, if you look at the region generally, Kenya is selling a kilowatt at 33 shillings per kilowatt hour. Ethiopia is doing less than a shilling, And when we go deeper and find out, it's because we have some unconscionable contracts that were signed at the beginning of this so-called independent power production that have seen that it is impossible for us to bring down the cost of electricity. If you are a manufacturer, for instance, you really don't care where your plant is. You only care about your overheads. So when we talk about the economy generally, Yvonne, we will give you a platform. That is why I want you to be patient. I've just told you we are having a meeting tomorrow at 7:30 with part of this team, and we'll grow that team to be able to give you a document. By the time we go into the election, we should have a clear plan on what we're going to do. But overall, there's no one who wants to see Ruto in office a day extra because of the things that we've discussed this evening.
Let's take another question now. For this one is, healthcare is devolved. We've all seen the struggles that the healthcare workers go through. Kindly ask Sifuna why he's not addressed the issues, especially in Nairobi County, where we suffer perennial salary delays. Currently, the county workers have a fake medical cover under SHA. What will he do about it? Finally, what does he suggest as a permanent solution to these challenges in healthcare?
I think even when those questions are sent in, Yvonne, you need to be fair because it is not possible for anyone to say that I have not addressed the question of healthcare workers in Nairobi. Every single time, I think I wish I would print out the Senate Hansard for you to see how many times we've raised the question of UHC workers, CHPs, the medical cover of our health workers in Nairobi. I have raised this issue over and over in the Senate, and the record will bear me witness, because part of the problem has been that the government has not been honoring what we call those collective bargaining agreements. And it is a problem that has persisted for a very long time. So whenever those CBAs come up for renewal, and governors will always run and say, oh, we don't have the resources to be able to implement. We just passed this year 8 billion Kenyan shillings for the absorption of those UHC workers. But the governors are telling us that they can't absorb those UHC workers on permanent and pensionable because we passed that 8 billion as a conditional grant. And we believe they are running away, because the flip side of that argument, Yvonne, is this. When you come to the conversation, for instance, about pending bills, we in the Senate are so frustrated, and Nairobi, of course, has the biggest amount of pending bills. We in the Senate are so frustrated that over and over again, governors do not want to pay these pending bills, to the extent where we feel like we need to tie these monies down and tell them that this is specifically for payment of pending bills. But then they say we are micromanaging them. So when they come to the Senate and tell us this money for UHCs, if you put it as or together with the equitable share, then we will absorb them in permanent pensionable. The Senate is very reluctant to do that, because we have seen that previously money that is not ring-fenced is applied for other things other than the purpose for which it was intended. So, and then of course there is always the excuse that is given by the governors about late exchequer releases. And this is one of those things that we have fought as a Senate. You've heard us complaining that we pass something called a disbursement schedule, which should offer some degree of predictability to counties as to when they're going to receive their monies. But the National Treasury never follows that disbursement schedule. And you have seen us put John Mbadi to task, and to President William Ruto to explain to him that the National Treasury is not a national government treasury. It is supposed to serve both levels of government. When you hear reports from the control of budget, for instance, that again, institutions that you don't want me to mention, like State House, 9 months into the financial year, they have already exhausted maybe 80-90% of their budget. And yet, when you speak to governors, they're saying they are 2-3 months behind in remittances. The reason why these workers go unpaid for a long time, they claim that the governor's claim is because of late exchequer releases. And many county governments have had to engage private banks to be able to get money for salaries for their workers, so that nobody goes unpaid. And then when the exchequer releases come, they're able to reimburse those loans. So it is a difficult conversation in healthcare. We have had conversations with facilities. Our county hospitals are owed a lot of money. But when you speak to the president, you get the sense that for him, the success of SHA is how many people have registered. And we're telling him, this is not a national registration bureau. We have a registration bureau. We have a register of persons. The success of a healthcare scheme cannot be how many people have registered. It should be how many people are actually accessing service, and to what extent. The promise of universal healthcare, Yvonne, was that the specter of Harambes to be able to clear, hospital bills would be a thing of the past. Do we still have Harambes for those things? Yes, we do. The argument was that those of us who are in a position to give more should give more, so that those who don't have are able to also access coverage. If you look at the percentage jump in your contributions to healthcare or the health insurance scheme, from less than 1,000 shillings when NHIF was there to over 32,000 shillings per month, at least in my case. And the argument was so that other people who have no income are able to get cover. But still, you can see the complaints. There was a recent story, I don't know if you saw it, that hospitals discovered that there's a 2% that is charged on their remittances, and nobody knows what that 2% is for or where the money goes. Yeah. These are some of the issues, Yvonne, so that we should be able to look each other in the eye and say, there's a problem here and we need to resolve it. Yeah.
Let's take another question here now, and this one is from David. And David is asking, the current lineup appears to be overwhelmingly made up of men. David asks, where are the ladies?
I don't know what he means by current lineup. Because in Linda Mwananchi we do have quite a number of ladies, and you've seen them. But again, we have not been very effective as political leadership in encouraging women to run and to do away with the obstacles that prevent women from participating in politics. I remember in the last election when I was SG of ODM, even this issue of money that we've discussed here, we identified it as one of the reasons why many people shy away. And we are trying to break that mental barrier by some of the things that we are doing here, making sure that the cost of elections is publicly available. People know that you don't need those billions that some of these leaders speak about to be able to run a presidential campaign or indeed a campaign for any other seat. I remember talking to institutions who are willing actually back then to support women running in individual constituencies. They were given money for nominations. You know, that fee that political parties charge, even if it is 150,000 shillings, sometimes you find, especially these young women, are unable to raise it. So the problem has been persistent. We as a political class need to do more to encourage women to participate in elections. But I can assure you, we in Linda Mwananchi are very deliberate. And we have gone out to be able to find these ladies and to be able to put them on the stages. You've seen them. And we try and mentor them to be able to be viable candidates as well, and to encourage them that it doesn't take as much as they hear it does to be able to run for office.
Some more questions we have. Let's take this one from Wycliffe. Does he still think Kenyans can vote independently without directions from regional kingpins? Is he also competing for Luhyaland kingship with Natembeya having kind of endorsed him? Atwoli says there will be Bohungu 3. Does it matter to you?
Yeah, first, I am not looking to be a Luhya kingpin. I think those who are looking for Luhya kingpins can proceed and do that. We are looking for, we are looking to be a force that is consequential on a national scale. And this is why we've put together all these leaders from different regions. If you look at Linda Mwananchi, we have leadership from all areas of the country. All tribes are represented there. And our intention is to actually build that movement to be consequential. Whether Kenyans are ready to vote independently without directions from regional kingships or kingpins is a matter of time. I think it will be something that will be decided at some point, whether it is indeed possible for us to be able to say, we like this gentleman, he doesn't come from our area, our kingpin has told us not to vote for him, but we're going to vote for him anyway. About Bohungu 3, really, it doesn't matter to me. People are allowed to do their meetings. We will do our meetings. You saw that our meetings in Trans Nzoia and Bungoma were very peaceful because there was largely no interference from the police, and we didn't see any goons there. We don't disrupt other people's meetings, and our basic expectation is that we also be allowed to do our meetings. So I really don't mind who holds what meeting. So let everybody, because everybody has that freedom to be able to hold meetings, let them hold their meetings.
What would it take, do you think, to change? Because we still have, you know, the notion and the thinking of regional kingpins,
yes,
and of ethnic voting blocks. What do you think it would take to change this mentality? First of all, do you think it needs to change? That's one. And if so...
Yeah. You know, I think it is possible for people to vote and support a political leader irrespective of whether they come from that region. I had one of the leaders speaking, I think it was yesterday, and was saying, we are going to marry 4 wives and have, I think, 20 children so that they can vote for us. How does he know that Sifuna, who doesn't come from that region, cannot persuade his children to vote for him? I think that mentality has been overtaken by time. And we should be able to persuade anyone from any persuasion, because there is a language, Yvonne, that all of us understand. And it is this language that we've been trying to explain to you this entire show of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law. I have posed the question, for instance, Baba was an acknowledged national leader, actually. And we have governors as far away from Bondo as Tana River. So the question I asked is, how does somebody come from Bondo and go to Tana River and convince people who don't speak his language to vote for someone on his party? There is a language that everybody understands. This language of social justice and the rule of law. In Tana River, they understand it. In Garissa and Wajir and Bungoma, all of those areas, they understand it. And we as leaders have the challenge to, rise above the temptation to actually be those regional kingpins. Because previously, and you have seen that there are leaders who have ended up in office basically by just mobilizing their people and looking for one other tribe, and they sit down and they agree that this is what they're going to do, and they actually win the elections. So the temptation is there from a political perspective, but it is for us to, especially as a new generation of leaders, to rise above it. I believe that I can persuade anyone to see the point that democracy and human rights and life are a higher ideal than anything else. And equality in a society and social justice to bring the people who have been traditionally left behind to the same standards as we the others are, is a language that people can understand. It's something that they can buy. Which is why you have seen that the Linda Mwananchi has been very acceptable across regions, Yvonne. You go to Ukambani, they are there for you. You go to Masaini, you go to all these other areas. You find support because you're speaking the language that everybody understands.
Okay. There's a question that's come in via email. I want us to take a look at them. It's a raft of questions.
Yes.
So if we can sort of answer them as quickly as we can.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, we squeezed it all into one, but just so you understand, this is from Eddie Brayson Obinda, who asks, let's start with the first. If elected president, what would be the top 3 priorities in your first 100 days, and how would you finance them without increasing Kenya's debt?
Actually, you see, that question presupposes that my priorities would be things that require financing. But I'm telling you, we in Linda Mwananchi are software engineers. The first thing we said we would do, we want first of all to cut public spending, public expenditure and wastage in government. That one does not require anything to finance. Number 2, we want to reduce the burden on the ordinary Mwananchi, especially when it comes to taxation. And we have proposed that if it is going to be possible for us to give relief to the salaried public, we should be able to do it within the first 100 days so that we are able to, whatever, even if it is through the supplementary budget. And by the way, you will remember, Yvonne, when William Ruto was elected, he had actually, I don't know if he did it, but there was talk of him cutting the budget by 380 billion shillings. Was it 380? So I don't know what changed, because immediately after that, he embarks on these high value or high expense projects that are continuing to increase the debt burden that we have. And yet we have all agreed, and the control of budget has said it, that it is now becoming unsustainable.
Okay, so cut expenditure,
yes, cut
reduce taxation?
Reduce taxation, and we would like also to deal with the question of these software issues. We return the country to a democratic state. You will not find anyone tweeting and being arrested in Linda Mwananchi country. You will not see us tear gassing churches, and we want to stop the killing of our young people. So those are our top priorities to be able to do in the first few days that we are elected.
All right. What practical and measurable plans, if we can go back to that, do you have to tackle youth unemployment and create sustainable jobs?
Yes, we have discussed here, and I think he must have missed that bit, about how jobs are created, Yvonne. If you look at the number of people who are employed in government, I think the number is less than 1 million people who are employed by government. The vast majority of the employed people are actually in the private sector. So we have gone through this discussion with you about the sort of environment that encourages investment. First, you need a level playing field where everybody feels that they can participate in a free market economy. You need to look at the overheads, including the taxation, the cost of production, cost of electricity, cost of land, sanctity of title, rule of law, because it affects what is it called? It affects investment decisions. I have explained to you how nobody puts their investment worth billions in a country where that investment can be taken away because we have a corrupt government that is going to ask you for either a percentage before the investment is done, or outright bribes for you to be able to pay to play. They call it pay to play. So all these things, that is how employment is created. And I want to encourage these young people. My own life story, Yvonne, and let nobody lie to you that kazi ni kazi. There's nothing like that. Young people have spent so much time in school learning and gaining knowledge in specific areas. The dream is to be employed in an area where you actually trained in. So you cannot spend 6 years, 7 years studying medicine and then you are given kazi ya mjengo and then you are told kazi ni kazi. It's not possible. We are not saying kazi ya mjengo is bad, but surely what we are looking for is impactful employment that can change lives. I have told people the story of the job that I got in 2010 with one of the advertising companies here. It transformed my life overnight because they actually value you are going to do a job in which you are trained, and they value your skills such that they remunerate you properly. And the company is actually also doing well. There is business, there's so many things. The second story that I give is when I left formal employment and opened up my kiosk, as we call it, as lawyers. You know, that time, Yvonne, there was a lot of business for young lawyers. For instance, if you remember that period between 2010 and 2013, 14, 15 there were a lot of chamas coming together to collect money to buy plots in Kisaju. People were opening businesses. All that, we used to charge 20,000 shillings, 30,000 shillings to register a company for someone.
Okay.
And there were many people doing that registration. That business has evaporated for young lawyers. People no longer buy those plots. Those chamas stopped buying those plots in Kisaju and in Kitengela. All that business has evaporated for young lawyers. So the environment that you create is what triggers the investment community or the private sector to say we're going to put our money in this country.
Okay, so plenty of questions.
Yes.
Would you support investigations and prosecution of corruption involving members of your own party or close political allies?
Absolutely. Why not?
Okay.
Why not?
All right.
There is a promise that Baba made, you remember, and we had all signed up to it, that when you get into government, we will not do business in government. You either pick to be in government or you do business, but you cannot be both, you know. And in fact, this government started off on a bad note. If you remember, Yvonne, after the William Ruto administration came into power, members of his own party who had helped him to campaign, who had cases in court, what happened? All of those cases collapsed. And we all know that pressure was brought to bear on the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to drop those cases, and then you would find all those people being appointed to cabinet.
Okay. Quick one. I want us to finish with his questions. What do you consider the biggest mistake in your political career? What lessons have you learned that would make you a better national leader?
I don't know if I've made any mistakes because I don't think so. I don't think unless the people who have observed my political career say, oh, this was a mistake, or this was something that was a misstep. But personally, I feel that every decision that I have made in my political life has led me here. And we have had opportunity to learn under the feet of giants, of course. People like Raila, people like Anyang' Nyong'o, people like James Orengo. And they are the ones who have made us into the people that we are today. And we're hoping that we can even also contribute in creating a critical mass of leaders, especially the next generation of leaders that would be, you know, consequential in future.
Mm-hmm. Let's take another one now. Asifuna, can he work with President William Ruto?
I have answered this question a million times, and the answer remains the same. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next. Ronnie Ogego says, he says that they are through with ODM, yet his colleague Orengo still calls himself de facto leader of ODM. Make it make sense.
I said ODM is through with us.
Is there any permutation where you would
I said ODM are through with us, and they have demonstrated it.
Okay.
Yes, they have said, including removing us from WhatsApp groups. I don't know where he was. Like, by the time you're being kicked out of your WhatsApp group, those people are tired of you. Yeah? Yeah.
So Linda Mwananchi is completely separate from ODM?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will it be a party?
We are hoping so. We are hoping that we will be. Yeah.
Is there any relations with other units and other formations, such as the Renaissance Party?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Members of Linda Mwananchi, I've told you, come from different parties. You have seen members of Wiper Party there, haven't you? Yeah, you've seen members of Wiper Party. The MP for Kaiti is elected on Wiper. The MP for Mavoko, the Honorable Patrick Makau, is from Wiper.
So is this? Are you looking at a coalition? As
I said, Linda Mwananchi is a movement, and now the pressure is there for us to be able to morph into something a bit more concrete, organized, and structured. And that is a challenge that we've taken up because we come from different political backgrounds, and people have to deal with certain realities of their politics in their areas. But for those of us who ODM says we are persona non grata, we have to find a way to advance our politics some other place. I mean, that's the political reality.
Okay, let's take another one. This says, Danson Mukile in Washington. In real Kenyan politics, they say there are no permanent enemies or friends, but only permanent interests. Do you believe in this?
No, I don't, actually. I actually don't. There's people who... because by the time somebody is putting you in a grave, that's your permanent enemy. You will never have opportunity to have conversations with him. So,
but you did talk about Damascus moments.
Yeah, but this one who's putting you in a grave, like now, permanent, somebody like Albert Ojwang. When will you ever have a conversation with William to see if they have permanent interests? It's not possible, you know?
Okay, let's take another. Samuel, when is the next Linda Mwananchi rally and where?
Yeah, I think we are looking at going to Homa Bay and then possibly Meru because now I've told you how much money we have and you will ask me to account for it. So we have some good money to be able to do those two rallies and then we'll take it from there. But decisions in Linda Mwananchi are made at a table, collegiate, and many factors are, taken into account. How we move and where we go to next is very deliberate. So just be patient. The viewer who asked that question will be able to announce the next calendar of events by the end of the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we started this, you said not to focus on the issue of positions and what you would be running for.
Yes.
Do you still want to run for Senate of Nairobi?
Let's cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know why you're in a rush. Because I've told you there's decisions to be made, and those decisions are not Sifuna's decisions alone, you know. We have to carry our people along. I've been very grateful to these leaders because, there was a time, Yvonne, when nobody wanted to be around me because immediately they see you with me, there are grave consequences to be suffered. But people are becoming bolder and bolder and coming out. I want to thank people like the Honorable George Natembeya. It's not as I explained at home. It's not like I am better than him or he can make a good president. But for him to say, we are going to shelve our personal ambitions and support you, it was quite profound. People like James Agri Orengo, who's our senior, for him to choose to even be with us has been quite amazing, and we continue to thank them. So we will make those decisions because those are old hands. They are experienced. They have seen all of these things, and they can sit and advise on the best way to go into the 2027 election. But as I told you, we are not ones to ignore the call of the public or the call of our generation. So you're open whatever it is that we decide as a people, we will let you know, and we will not do it at night, Yvonne. I've told you. So just be patient.
So you're open to just anything, including being a running mate.
Just be patient. You really are obsessed with positions, aren't you?
No, just these are questions Kenyans are asking.
Because we have gone through all these things throughout this show. But you keep repeating the same question as if you think if you asked it 10 times, I would give you the answer you want.
Those are questions that Kenyans are asking.
Yeah,
I mean, if you take a look at the questions, if elected president, what would he do as president?
I think we've gone
These are questions that they are asking.
We have gone through.
So just so you know, there is expectation on you. So is that something that you are aware of?
And yes, of course. Yes. Of course. I have ears, Yvonne. Everywhere I go, I can hear what people are saying. Yeah. And it's not an easy decision to be taken alone. That's why I'm saying we must carry all of us together. This decision has to be a decision by all of us. So that when I turn around, I shouldn't find you gone. That's the reason why we're saying, give us time to be able to do the things that we've discussed here, the things that need to be done, to be able to give you that economic blueprint that you wanted, to have conversations with experts in the area, the businessmen and the others, for you to get a clear plan on what exactly we're going to do from day one. But overall, we have gone through some of the issues that we believe we can address even immediately. Yeah.
Edwin Sifuna, Senator for Nairobi, and do we call you leader of the Linda Mwananchi movement?
I don't think you can give me leadership. Let the people of Linda Mwananchi tell me who I am. But I am part of the leadership of Linda Mwananchi, because you have seen the assembly of leaders that we've put together under Linda Mwananchi. And we are all equals there. I've told you, like for instance, George Natembeya or even James Orengo, not better than any of those people. But we are saying we are coming together for a cause, and that cause has to be a collegiate cause, a cause that is for all of us, belongs to all of us.
Edwin Sifuna, thank you for being on The Explainer.
Asante.
Appreciate your time, as always. That's where we leave it at tonight, but we have more coming up for you. Let's take a break. I'll be back with more.